Hi everybody, this is my old Honda FT500, and after rebuilding it, it began to try and start, and then I just started to get a click. So it's taken me a while to get to the bottom of why, but I thought I would make a video to try and help you in case you got a click. So the first thing I thought was, of course, it may have been the battery. I'm getting a train. So I charged the battery and it wasn't that. Plus I was getting 12.8 volts across the battery. So I didn't think it was that. So what I did after that was question the starter solenoid, which is this. This sits just beneath the tank, and I learned that you can bridge that out. And here's the connection to that, and it's bridged out. You bridge out the brown and red and the yellow and red wires, and that effectively bypasses the starter solenoid, and it made no difference. So then I learned that you can bridge out the starter control unit, which sits here, and you can bridge that out by connecting the yellow and black wire to the green and red wire. And it turned out that wasn't my problem either. So then I began to look down here at what the manual calls the starter switch, which is a solenoid, as you'll know. At the back there are the two wires that feed it. Yours may be a different colour because my wiring loom has been mucked around with. I should have 4 wires to this, but there are only 2, a feed and return. And if I put my multimeter across those and switched on the ignition and pressed the starter button, I got 12 volts. So I knew I was getting a feed to this. When I pressed the starter button, I could feel this was clicking. So I then pressed the starter button and checked across the 2 posts, the one that comes from the battery and the one that goes to the starter motor. And with the button pressed, my starter button up on the handlebar, when I pressed the button, I was getting continuity across those terminals. So I knew that a feed was going to the starter motor. So I'd ruled out the solenoid, I'd ruled out the control unit, I'd ruled out this here. My starter motor wasn't whirring. Now there's a solenoid on the other side. Bear with me, I'll not move too quickly. There it is there. And that solenoid engages the gearing that drives the engine from the starter motor. And I could hear that clicking. I stripped this out and greased it, etc. But it was okay, and I knew it was okay. It's very difficult to separate this from this casing. It had been on there for many years. I had to get a craft knife blade and tap it in with a light hammer all the way around several times until it started to work its way out, and then pull it out. That was quite a difficult thing to do. So that was okay. So then we were down to the starter motor. And luckily I noticed that the starter motor earths through the engine via these 3 screws effectively. And this screw was smoking when I pressed the starter motor, if I kept my finger on the button. So I thought I had a bad earth. So I made this earth that runs from the screw onto the engine bolt, and that's the same engine bolt that takes the negative from the battery to the bike. So I knew I'd get a good earth to that. And it temporarily cured the problem, but that wasn't the problem. I subsequently discovered this post that feeds, can you see that? That feeds the live current into the starter motor was shorting against the casing. So it was shorting against the casing and making this smoke around the area of this screw where it was returning back to the battery via the motor. So that ultimately was my problem. By this time I stripped the starter motor out, stripped out all the brushes, etc. And I could see there was heat damage inside, and I think that's been caused by the short. So I discovered that in behind this little nut there was a missing grommet, and I think this 6mm threaded post was shorting to the casing because of the missing grommet and caused me the problem. So there's a grommet in there now. The bike's starting fine, but the diagnostic path that I had to go through might help you. If you can, another train come in, if you can bridge out your starter solenoid, check that. You can bridge out your starter control unit, prove that that's okay or not. You can come down here, check the feed to your starter solenoid, feel it clicking when you press the button. You can check continuity across the posts when the starter button's depressed. You can then put your fingers on the solenoid at the far side that engages the gearing. That's a subtle click, but you will feel that click. If you're feeling brave, you can put a screwdriver across the two posts here, lots of sparks, but you'll hear the motor whirring then. The starter motor will whir around if it's okay. It won't try and start the bike because the solenoid on the other side that engages the gearing, it won't kick in because you've only shorted out the starter motor. So that'll let you test if the starter motor's working, and hopefully you won't end up where I was, where it's the very last piece in the puzzle, where the live feed goes into the motor itself. So I hope that video has been helpful. Thanks for watching.